Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is another Monday, March the 9th, 11 a.m. Central European Time. A lot later wherever you are around the world. And being a Monday, we have a lot of things we have to cover. We're going to have a look at Market Watch and find out what's going to go on this week, because I think CPI is coming out this week and it's going to be a bloodbath. We're going to go through that. We're also hours away from doing something which is pretty sentimental to me, and I'm sure to a lot of you. We're going to have a look at how many Bitcoin are left to mine. We're then going to look at oil. Why aren't we going to look at oil? We're going to look at a $500,000 Bitcoin target from Plan B. We're going to look at the delayed alt season. Is that going to come around next year? We're going to look at the Cardano news coming out from Charles. We're going to talk about WLFI, World Liberty Financial, liquidity issues, apparently. And then we're going to talk about Compound being hacked and lies you have been told, according to the Trezor CEO. So it's a big day, and you know what? It's quiet. So I have decided to basically try and change things up a little bit. We've got a nicer wallpaper behind me. We've got bricks. Everybody loves bricks. I've basically tried to change a little bit of the layout. We're going to be changing it over time. We get bored from time to time. So that's what we're going to do. A few good mornings. Danny is in chat. Good morning to you, Danny. Good morning to you, Mags. Hidden Agendas is also here. I hope you're doing well. And to all of the lurkers out there, I don't mind you not typing in chat, but smash the like button and give us a follow, especially if you are on Binance Square. Say hello. There's a few people over there. Bazem is in chat. So Kiao is in chat. There's a lot of names that I can't pronounce, which I do apologize. Trading Psycho, I think that's a great name. Sorry, Trading Psychologists. That's a great name. I hope you're doing incredibly well. We do have the Bitcoin chart pinned to the screen. I think that's the majority of what you should be looking at right now. There are a lot of gains to be made, of course. You could have longed oil, but again, it's volatile. We have the Iran situation going on. There's not a lot we can do about that. We can just have to try and look at what's going to happen and try and unpick it. And good morning to you, Unknown BNB. I hope you're well as well. Let's get on with what we're going to be talking about and actually get into the show. Now, let me bring this up. First of all, where is the window capture? Which is here. Give me a second. There we go. We are up. Now, first thing I want to point out, everything is moving on oil. So whether it be stocks and shares, the European markets, the Asian markets, American markets, everything's moving on oil right now because the Strait of Hormuz, it's closed, it's open, tankers are getting through, they're not being allowed through. There's a lot going on over there right now. So basically, we were looking at sub $66,000 Bitcoin last night. Then I think the G7 came out a few hours ago. I haven't put it into the stream, but basically they've agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil. That's helped the markets to bounce a little bit. And of course, as we're looking at the chart now, Bitcoin is coming in over $68,000. So we've moved up a little bit. In fact, we're up over the last 24 hours. So everything's volatile. And if everything is volatile, your alts and Bitcoin will be volatile. It's no good looking at Bitcoin in isolation. Look at Bitcoin in the macro. What's going on in the world? The world is not a stable place right now. We have a lot of conflict going on, and that will impact your bags. Now, there are a few people in chat saying, what's going to happen to Bitcoin? Are we going to go up? Are we going to go down? We've made about 6 videos this year telling you what we think Bitcoin is going to do. And so far, every single one of those moves has come true, including the $74,000 move that we saw last week. Now, the question is, was that $74,000 move Was that the relief rally that I was talking about, or are we going to see another relief rally? Was that a failed breakout? Are we now going to see another breakout? We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But Bitcoin is coming in at 68,000. Ethereum, miraculously, is over $2,000. Ethereum is like your little weak brother, okay? The one that's got the limp, the one that's terrible at running, okay? And he's in the 100-meter race, and he's just come third out of a pack of 10 people. Somehow he's still going. Ethereum over $2,000. Why? It's, sometimes price action, it just absolutely stumps me. I don't know why we're at $2,000, but there we go. BNB is still over $600. That really hasn't moved an awful lot in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that's not a bad thing. XRP, the stable coin, is at 135. That's down about 5 cents on the week. If you look at the 7-day on XRP, it's the same price as it was this time last Monday. Groundhog Day, as I've said to you, it's going to be Groundhog Day until October. Solana is coming in at $84. That hasn't moved. Cardano at 25 cents. I know somebody posted up a chart from Sheldon saying that Cardano could break out towards 35 cents. I actually don't think that's a bad call. In all honesty, nobody's calling for a 60 or 80 cent Cardano. I think a 35 cent Cardano is not a bad idea. It has dropped dramatically, but it's still 10th. Remember, it did drop below, I think, Bitcoin Cash for a short while. Hype is at $31.27. Are we going to get the entry to Hype at $22 to $24? That's what I'm pinning my hopes on. Chainlink below $9. I've said everything I need to say about that. People need to be arrested. Tau is up. Chills, Zcash is up. There's a few other decent ones in there. Now, this is an interesting one. World Liberty Financial is up. Now, this is one of the things which we're going to be talking about later on. But I just want to make something very clear. The amount of money that is being generated through USD1 is being put into buybacks for WLFI. Now, I am not a betting man, but if I was, I would say that they are buying WLFI at 9 to 9.5 cents. That's what I believe. They have a lot of dry powder. I think they're going to try and support a 9 to 10 cent token. That's what I think. Now, my buy price for World Liberty Financial is 7 to 9 cents. And if they're doing that, I might not get what my wish. But we have a long way to go in this bear market. World Liberty Financial could go to 4 or 5 cents in this bear market. Even my prediction of Hype, it could go to $14 or $15. These are just my entry prices. These aren't prices that we're necessarily going to bottom out at. If Bitcoin is going to go to $40,000 or $50,000, depending on who you believe, everything on your screen now is going to lose 30 to 50%. That's just the way it is. That's what happens. There's a few other coins there. Asta, I know Asta have done a buyback as well. That's pushed it over 70 cents. Again, the price action of Asta is pretty solid. And if you watched our stream on, what day was it? Did we stream? We streamed on Saturday with Yikes. I gave my three tokens, and I picked Asta and I picked Hype. Now, I don't own any Hype. Okay, let me make that very clear. But I own a very, 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 very small amount of Asta because I don't want to hold everything. And I also said, what other coin did I pick on Saturday? I can't remember. Anyway, I know Asta and Hype were my two picks. I think I might have picked Syrup, maybe, something like that. Losers then. Stable is down. Pippin, Humanity Protocol. Again, this is the deja vu that I'm talking about. Every day that we stream, we look at the 24-hour gainers and losers, and what coins are coming up every single day on the gainers and the losers. It's the same tokens. It's like Groundhog Day. Canton, Kite, Humanity, Pippin, and Stable are either pumping or absolutely dumping. Look at Kite, for example. It's up 20% over the last week, but it's down 6.5% today. There's a very good chance by Thursday or Friday this week, we're looking at Kite in the 24-hour gainers. I'm not saying they're manipulated because I don't know if they're manipulated, but I find it really odd that these coins are just pumping and dumping and pumping and dumping. And if you were going to make money out of a token, you would genuinely pick, if you look at the market caps, for example, look at Humanity, Kite, Pippin, and even Stable, 300 and 500 million. They're probably within the realms of market caps where you can pump those tokens. Possibly. Again, I can't say one way or another, can I? Now then, we're going to start off with a couple of things. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is actually, it's quite emotional for me, and I'll explain in a very short minute. But the economic calendar for this week is not looking good. We're going to get absolutely wrecked on Wednesday. I know we are. And this is without the oil price change, okay? We're talking now, what, $100, $108, $110 a barrel of oil. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The core CPI is probably going to be the last time you see these kind of 2.5% rates. We're probably going to go over 3% in April, and that's simply down to the oil price. Now, the other thing I said on Saturday was the market has priced in the start of the war because it was telegraphed. And if you look at the Bitcoin chart, now, yes, the Bitcoin price was always going to do what it always does. But there was certainly a lower than expected low put in. And I do think that was spurred on somewhat by people selling risk on assets because of the war. Now, America moved an awful lot of artillery 2 or 3 weeks before it all started, and I think the markets priced it in. What I don't think is the markets have priced in the end of the war. Okay, it's very easy to price in the beginning of a war because you can monitor movements. You can see the planes flying into Europe and into the Middle East, but you don't know when the end is going to be. So I think we've priced in the beginning. I don't think we've priced in the end. And some people are saying this could last for a week. Some people are saying this is going to last for 6 months. And I'm going to tell you a little bit later on what I think when we get to that. So Wednesday is massive. Look at Thursday as well. Thursday is jobless claims. These are probably, in my opinion, going to be a lot higher because I think unemployment is starting to rise in America. And the issue that Powell has in his last few months is if you've got inflation and you've got unemployment going up, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can't cut rates. You do cut rates, you're likely to even spur on inflation. The price of oil going up is going to spur on inflation. So Powell can't cut rates. So don't expect any rate cuts until we see the end of this conflict. Friday, again, PCE is coming out. It's going to be a bad week. It's going to be a bad week. All of those people in chat that like to use leverage, please don't. Okay? It's going to get you absolutely wrecked. Okay? It's not a good time. Now then, this is what I wanted to show you. Good morning, KB. I hope you're well. This is BitBo. I don't know who they are. I hope they're not an exchange. But this is what's left. Okay? We have 19.99994 million Bitcoin mined. We have 1,059 Bitcoin left to go. I think last week I said we're probably going to hit this around Tuesday or Wednesday this week. We're going to hit it today. Okay, there's 450, roughly 450 Bitcoin a day, I think is the max. Then you're looking at maybe 15 to 20 an hour. So within the next 4 hours, Bitcoin will have less than 1 million Bitcoin left to mine. Now, I did put a tweet out about this because it's quite close to my heart. And the reason is, very simply, when I started in Bitcoin, and this surprised me as well, we actually had so many more Bitcoin. Where is the screenshot that I put up? I put it, here we go. We were looking at Bitcoin. I was in Bitcoin when there was 15 million mined. Okay? We are now about to get to 20 million mined. Now, The thing is, none of us watching this, including me, are ever going to see. None of us are ever going to see the 21st millionth Bitcoin mined. I don't even know if that's grammar, because the difficulty rate keeps coming down. So the next halving, which is in about 2 years' time, it will go from 450 a day to 225 a day. Then it will go to 112 and a half a day. Then it will go to, what's that, 66 and a bit a day. And as we go on through time, less and less Bitcoin will be mined, less and less inflation or emissions will come to the market. So this is it. This is the end. This is the last million Bitcoin that nobody here will be alive to see us get to. That's the way you need to look at this. So it's a very, very, I don't know whether, I feel like it's the end of the journey as far as Bitcoin mining is concerned, because there really isn't a lot left. If you think that we got in 2016, we've mined 5 million Bitcoin in those 10 years. We're not even going to get probably 500,000 mined in the next 10 years. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But either way, this is it. And the supply shock will probably come very soon, probably within the next year or two. And then we're going to see dramatically higher prices for Bitcoin. Fingers crossed. But this is going to happen today, and this is quite sad. And it is quite a sad moment to see that will be the we're entering the final million of Bitcoin to be mined. Anyway, I think I've already included my tweet on this. Let me just double check. No, this is another question. I want you to ask yourself a question. Were you happier before you got involved in crypto? That's a question to Mags, to KB, to Danny, to anybody who is watching over on Binance Square. Good morning, Cage Wani. I hope you're well there in Venezuela. The island of the Margarita. I could do with one of them right now. The question is, were you happier before you got involved with crypto? And I suppose it depends on how you come at this. If you came to crypto thinking you were going to become incredibly rich over the previous 3 or 4 years, then maybe you're not. If you came into this with a 20-year horizon or a horizon where you can change your entire family's fortunes, but it's going to take time, and you appreciated it was going to take you time, then maybe, just maybe, this was something that you're still happy with, because this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You're going to be doing this for a long time. You're going to be stacking Bitcoin for a long time. And yes, we've come down 50%. That's what happens in a bear market. The next video I'm going to make is about dollar cost averaging in. Okay, and I think this would answer this question. If you get into crypto without a plan, then that's the problem. If you get into crypto thinking that you are going to become mega rich, that's a problem. I found a tweet that I put out in January last year with my price predictions for last year, and my Bitcoin target was the closest of all. I said $140,000 to $150,000 in this bull run, and we got to 126. And listen, I'm more than happy with that, okay? Because I'm conservative. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say we're going to go to $1 million. Where I was very, very wrong was my Ethereum target, which was, I think, either 6 to 8 or 8 to 10,000. I can't remember which. We only got to about 5. My Solana target, I think, was 600 to 1,000, and we got to, I don't even know if we broke 300. So the more further away we go from Bitcoin, the more we're going to be wrong, in my opinion. Now, the next video I'm going to make about dollar cost averaging is making a plan. And I did make a video for the OGs about this last year, or maybe even the year before. Where you buy into the bottom of Bitcoin now determines how much wealth you will accumulate in the next 3 years. So if you buy into Bitcoin at $60,000 today, tomorrow, whenever we go to $60,000, and we run to $180,000 at the peak of the next bull run, you have 3x'd your money. Now that's good, 300% profit, fantastic. Or 300%, whatever it might be. But if you buy in at, say, 50,000 or 40,000? I'll read the comments out in a second. But the thing is, how you get into Bitcoin is how well you do. And you get into Bitcoin at times like this. You get into Bitcoin when everybody is telling you it's a failed project. Because do you know how many times I've heard this since 2016? 100 times I've been told this is not a good idea, this is not a good project. I am immeasurably, crypto-wise that is, immeasurably richer than I was in 2016 in crypto. I have not really bought a massive amount of Bitcoin probably in the last 6 years. I've been dollar cost averaging in, but not much. And the next video I'm going to make is going to be about how you buy Bitcoin. And it's going to be simple. And it's going to be about making a plan. And it's going to be about making a plan in Satoshis. And it's going to be a guide. And if you stick to that guide, I'm going to show you what would have happened if you'd done that over the last 2, 4, 6 years. And that is your plan. Okay, and I'm going to make that video probably today or tomorrow, whenever it might be. It'll be soon. Been thinking about it for a while. Because if you get into crypto without a plan, how do you know when to get out? You go watch a movie. You know where the cinema is. You know how long the movie is going to last. You know where to buy the popcorn and the drinks from. You watch the movie, you leave. That's your plan. It's like going to watch a movie and you don't know when the movie's going to end, and you don't know when to leave, and you don't know what to buy. You just go into a room and you're sitting there. That's not how it needs to work. That's not how anyone makes correct financial decisions, because you don't know when to leave. You don't know when to get out. So that's the next video I'm going to make. Now, in answer to the question, Danny is happier now that he is in crypto. KB had more time and better sleep. I'm very happy now. Before I was depressed. I think, and this is another really important point that Mags has made, I think Bitcoin, and to some respects crypto, gives you hope. But I don't think it gives you false hope. I think false hope comes with memes. I think buying memes gives you false hope. Expecting to be a lottery winner and expecting to win on a meme coin are probably one in the same thing. You can buy a meme coin, and yes, it can 10,000x, but it's not going to happen. It might happen for one person. You're never going to be Ronaldo, but you can still play football. You're never going to be Messi, you can still play football. You're never going to be that one guy that makes the 10,000x, because that one guy is one person in the world that does the 10,000x. But it doesn't mean you can't make a living. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of footballers around the world that make a living out of playing football. There will be hundreds, if not millions, of people who have made a plan in crypto and will be financially better off the more time goes by. And the more we get adopted, the more we grow as... I hate being a fluffy community type person. The more adoption we get, the more institutionalized crypto gets, the more it becomes accepted, the bigger your bags will hopefully grow over time. BNB will get stronger because of the burn, because of the adoption. Solana will get stronger, Ethereum will get stronger, Bitcoin will get stronger. And yes, maybe in 6-8 years' time, it does go to $1 million per Bitcoin, because we've got debasement going on. That $1 million, by the way, in 8 to 10 years' time, is more than likely going to be worth $600,000, $700,000. So when people give you these targets, take into account the fact that over a 10-year, 20-year period, the money in your pocket is going to reduce in value by 25, 50%. So the $1 million target is only going to be $500,000 or $600,000 worth of purchasing power. But you still need a plan. You absolutely still need a plan. And like I said, am I happier now I am in crypto? I think it gives me a purpose, because I retired in 2018. So I kind of had no purpose for a very, very long time. And don't get me wrong, it was great having a few lie-ins, but after a while they get pretty boring. I love it when I have a family dinner and I make a comment about Bitcoin and crypto and everyone laughs, and ironically, I laugh too. They have no idea. I think that's the best way to play it, in all honesty. You know you've made it, Mags, when somebody calls you lucky. That's always the case. I have been called lucky 10 times last year, maybe, from doing different things. I think being called lucky is the best compliment anyone can pay you. You were lucky you got into that crypto thing when it first started. There's no luck involved. You need brass balls to get into crypto. You look at buying into stocks and shares, 8% a year, on average, over 20 years. Everyone knows what they're going to get. People forget that 8% return comes from the fact that the money supply gets printed into oblivion every year. So that 8% is really about 2 or 3%. But either way, stocks and shares, safe bet. You put your money into Bitcoin, and over a long period of time, you will make a lot of money out of it. And maybe you can pay deposit, maybe you can buy a car, maybe you can buy a house. It doesn't matter. Whatever your personal target is, that's your target. And that's just the way it is. Now then, just a quick one. And this is an interesting one because this makes me laugh. I have said from the beginning that this was a narrative with no solid foundation. I said it from the beginning. Now, had you listened to me, had you not listened to me, and had you got in at $300, and had you sold at $700 or whatever it got to, $550, great. I would be more than happy for you to have done that. But Zcash had a narrative, but there was still nothing supporting this price action. And now we are down at 100. I don't know why that chart's there. That chart is clearly wrong. Now we're down below $200. I did say it would go below $300 at some point, and it did. And the reason is, and I don't know whether I believe this, but it did happen last time. The end of the last bull run, privacy coins ripped massively. And it's happened again this time. And it signaled the end of the bull run. So maybe there is something in that. Maybe the OGs sold their Bitcoin and bought a load of Zcash, moved it somewhere, and off-ramped. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But there was no narrative to support these privacy coins, none whatsoever, and they're all going to die. And I'm not going to die on this hill because I'm going to be right. Privacy coins have no future. They have no future because although governments are accepting of crypto and Bitcoin and stable coins, privacy coins they run against anti-money laundering. They run against everything that is kind of right about the financial system, which is funds have to be traceable. Mags goes out and buys $100,000 worth of Zcash, and then it rips 10x, and he's got $1 million, and Mags is a happy bunny. Now then Mags tries to buy a house with that money. Proof of funds. There's my $1 million. Where did it come from? Crypto. Can you show me where it came from in crypto? Not really. Can't really. Because Mags had it on a private wallet somewhere, and he couldn't show any of the transactions because they were private. Zcash is not available as far as I'm aware, or Monero is not available either on Binance, from what I remember. I think it was banned in certain countries. I think France was one, Holland was another, maybe even Portugal. Italy banned it as well. They're on borrowed time. They're on borrowed time. And I'm going to keep saying that. Anything that a government doesn't want will not make it. You know, I'm seeing people saying, SUI is the future. Banks aren't going to like it. If banks don't like it, it doesn't happen. Get with the program. Who has all the money in the world? The banking system. Can the banking system make money out of Bitcoin? Yes. Solana? Yes. Ethereum? Yes. Brilliant. Can it make any money out of privacy coins? No. So it's not going to happen then, is it? Where's the adoption? The markets are seeing the lowest NVTZ score ever, the lowest in 2022 during a period of maximum turmoil with the collapse of centralized parties and FTX. The Z score became low. Now, without any massive collapse in the crypto ecosystem, we're seeing even lower numbers. This market is way more likely to make a big U-turn than anyone expects. I'm on board with this bit. I'm not on board with this bit. I don't think we're going to see any spike at all to the upside. This is the midterm year, and for decades the midterm year is about uncertainty. Then the Americans vote. November the 6th is the final day. Then we have some idea of how well the current president is doing. It's a popularity contest. Halfway through his presidency as a popularity contest. Nearly every single time that president barely does well. But it brings certainty for the next 2 years back to the market. We are going into it on the back of Iran, on the back of inflation, on the back of unemployment. He is not going to do very well. But because his lead is so big, because the Democrat Party is so poor right now, he will probably come out of it damaged, yes, losing some level of control, yes, but still in charge. So, but either way, whether he does well or he doesn't do well, because a lot of water has got to flow under the bridge between now and then, he is going to still be the president of America on November the 7th. Then we get certainty. Now, I ran the numbers weeks ago on this. The markets in general, 76% of the time, I think the number was, 76% of the time, we go in low and come out high. Okay, so the markets are not going to do well until November, the very beginning of November, and then they're going to go up. Now, before November the 6th, there are a lot of kind of midterm elections doing the rounds. It's a funny place, America. Doesn't make any sense to me, but there you go. Some of the voting starts in, I think, July and August, some in September, then there's other votes in October, and November the 6th is the end. So we could come out of this in October, which would tie in to the 12-month anniversary of the all-time high, and I stick by the route that Bitcoin will finish the year higher than it started. But I don't believe that we're going to get a U-turn in the market unless we get the relief rally, and maybe that 74,000 wasn't the relief rally. Maybe we get another one that takes us towards the bull market support band 85,000. But as it stands today, I think that 74,000 was the top, and I think we go lower. And unless something changes my mind, I don't see a big U-turn anytime soon. Something has to happen in Iran for us to recover, and then we will go and get rejected at 80 or 85,000, and then we will come down again in the summer. But until we get to that point, I don't see, there's nothing in my tea leaves, which is actually coffee. There's nothing in my coffee that tells me we're going to go anywhere other than down. And I'm sure there were many people out there that are going to tell us that this is still the 2026 bull run. News often follows the market. Yeah. Except when they're... The only thing I would... and I'm stand by this, and this is what we're going to talk about. The market news about the war, the start of the war, is priced into the charts. In fact, if we go back to January, when we did our first few videos, we said, what's going to happen this year? We're going to come down, get rejected at the bull market support band, and come down, and then we're going to have a relief rally, and then we're going to put in our low. That's what the charts say, because that's what we've done every midterm year that Bitcoin's existed. Okay? So that's what the chart tells us, and that's what I have based the entirety of 2026 on so far, and so far we have been right. So KB, absolutely spot on. This is how the market works. Now the news, the news about the Iran conflict, very careful what I say here, is not a shock to the majority of people that read anything or know anything about. We knew it was coming, okay? The question is the uncertainty that it brings. We don't know when it's going to end. And the longer it goes on, the more depressed the market's going to get. Now, like I said, I think 74,000 at this moment in time was the top. And now we're going to go lower. If we break 60, we could go to 58 or 55. I can't remember what the number is right now. But my bottom is 50,000. We had Ben Cowan on the show, as I'm sure many of you watched the video. He's got 40,000 as the bottom. Maybe we go to 40,000 and I'm wrong. If you actually read the very lowest line, I've got $29,000 for Bitcoin. I don't see us going there, okay? That's, I think, a 70% correction. I think 60 takes us to 50 and 50 takes us to 63. And pretty much 63 is kind of where we held this leg down. But the next leg down is 50,400. And this is not good news for the macro. The oil going up to $100 a barrel is energy. The cost of energy is going to go up. Everything in the world needs energy to be produced, whether it's delivering your eggs, whether it's the abattoir, whether it's making your sofa, mowing your lawn. The cost of energy goes up. Your electricity certainly will go up. So this is not good. But again, I will say the same thing we say every time these things happen. You are sold the catastrophe. I can never say this word. It's such a hard word. Catastrophization of events is where news will sell you the worst possible scenario. They will tell you this is World War III. They will tell you this is the end of civilization. They will tell you that oil is going to go to $400 a barrel. They will tell you all of these things, and you will read it and you will consume it. And you will believe the majority of what they're telling you. Every single time we've had anything like this on the cards, on this channel, I've told you it's never as bad as they make out. We could have a resolution in a week or a month or 2 months. The G7, the producers of oil, are not going to allow oil to go to $200 or $150 a barrel. It might wick to 120, 130, 140. Of course, I'm not an oil trader, but they're going to do everything in their power to stop it from going that high. So that's something that you have to bear in mind. It's never going to be as good or as bad. We talk about outliers, don't we? We talk about the fact that you shouldn't listen to somebody telling you we're going to $500,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, the same way you shouldn't listen to somebody telling you we're going to $10,000 a Bitcoin by the end of the year. They're both equally as bad. They are, because neither of those things have ever come to pass. There's not been one occasion where one of these crazy price targets for Bitcoin has ever happened. Ever. So don't expect them to just suddenly start happening now. They don't have a crystal ball. They can't see the future. But based on their track history, they're way, way more wrong than I've ever been. So this is going to affect the markets. If the markets are affected, risk on assets are the first thing to go. And the first thing to go, Bitcoin is a risk on asset. It is not an inflation hedge right now. It is not a flight to safety. That's gold. But this doesn't have to happen to the extent that people make out. Okay? That is what you have to bear in mind. So oil is going to affect us. That's the first thing I wanted to point out. I don't want to talk out too much about this one because I've got a tweet which I think is probably more salient. Good morning, Bullish Bull. I hope you are well. I hope everybody's well today. Now, this is the Kobesi letter, and they're actually, I would say they're pretty factual. And there's a few people that I've covered on here in the past that have started to become very concerned. And this is probably the big one. So, oil depots, water desalination plants. Iraq confirmed that the 3 million barrels of oil production per day are offline. This is larger than the Russian supply loss in 2022, which sent prices to $130 a barrel. The Russian oil disruption fears in 2022 were never realised. To top it off, Qatar is now expecting oil prices to hit $150 a barrel. Something must change. It's become completely unsustainable. Expect a busy week ahead. Now, this was put up at 7 o'clock last night. Since then, the G7 have agreed to release the oil reserves, which is the several $100 million barrels of oil. So it's never going to be as bad as people make out. And people try and kind of force this narrative down your throat, and it doesn't work the same way. It's the same way, you know, when you see headlines about other things that are going on. It's never as bad or as good as people make out. Just try and see through the fear-mongering in all of these things. Now, at the other end of the scale, I remember this tweet 2 days ago that Plan B put up that's now been turned into an article. And this is Plan B basically saying that we should be at $500,000 for Bitcoin right now. And this is based on, I believe it's called the stock to flow model. What is that advert on the right hand side, which is absolutely blinding me? So the stock to flow model predicts that Bitcoin will have an average price of $500,000 during the current halving cycle between 2024 and 2028. It comes amid ongoing market fluctuations. Bitcoin has struggled to get back above 70. We're at 68 now. He has predicted, using his chart, that we should be somewhere in the $500,000 range with a price between 250 and 1 million. And this is the famous chart. If you've never seen this chart before, this is his chart. Now, I was massively on board with this. And the reason being is that it worked. But models work until they don't work. And it doesn't mean that Plan B is some kind of kook or some kind of like false prophet. If you go to 2011, I don't know where my head is anymore on this screen because I've gone to the left, haven't I? There we go. I can move that down a little bit further, actually. Let's just make sure that everything's on the screen. There we go. It's there. So, look at Plan B's model. When did it not work? So from 2011 until about halfway probably through 2024, his model worked. Absolutely. Okay. And he's got his different charts, his different points, which go from kind of like deep blue to bright red. You can see them on the chart. And the average price is the dotted line, which is the stock to flow model. Now, again, it stopped working about a year and a half ago. But it worked for 13 years. Okay? Now, what coincided with this stopping working? What event that happened that stopped this working? So, you've got to go back. What happened in 2024 that could have stopped this from working? I don't think it's the Trump effect. I don't think he's had that much of an effect on price. Could it be the ETFs, maybe? Could it be that we're heading through a period of Bitcoin trying to go through a bull run with constricted macros, you know, high interest rates, liquidity not going into the economy, possibly? There's a lot of things that come to play, but it hasn't really worked from probably the middle of the middle of 2024 onwards. But it doesn't mean we can't take a lot from it. Now, he says we should be at $500,000. We're nowhere near. We have got nowhere near. We got to exactly 25% of that average price, didn't we? Got 126,000. So before anybody starts having a go at Plan B, let's point out that he's been solidly right for 13 years. Okay? Solidly right for 13 years. And as I said, all models break down eventually, and his has broken down after 13 years. So 13 years of predicting the most volatile asset in the world. The guy needs a medal and a statue. He doesn't need mocking because his model hasn't worked. We've come back down to the line, which kind of like the moving average line that he's got on here. I don't really care. But what should we take from this? We should take from this that the model doesn't work anymore, and $250,000 to $1 million for Bitcoin is clearly wrong. What I think he has to do now is go back to the drawing board and find out if there is a way of adapting the stock to flow model to fit the future, to fit what is likely to happen moving forward, because the guy is clever enough to be able to do that. And I think maybe we have a new stock to flow model which takes all of these things into account, and maybe he can backtest it. Maybe there's something he missed. Maybe he can add different things in. Again, ETFs didn't exist before 2024. Maybe he can start to look at them. I don't know. But one thing I will say, $500,000 is an outlier in the opposite direction. You're going to hear people telling you we're going to go to the downside, way lower than we're going to go. That's not going to happen. We're going to see targets like this, which are way above where we've got any chance of going to. Do you know what the market cap of Bitcoin would have to be at this price? We would need several $trillion. Maybe not that much, actually. Maybe we would need $5-6 trillion of increased market cap to get us anywhere near this from where we are right now. So don't discount plan B. He's been there. He's been through it. He's been more accurate than most for the majority of Bitcoin's history. But now the model simply doesn't work, and we now need to move on. But again, I'm not going to knock him for doing that, because I think it really helped crypto understand the cycle that it was in. If anything, he showed us that the 4-year cycle worked, and that's what we should take away from it. Now then, moving on very swiftly. Just let me keep an eye on chat very briefly. In fact, let me go over and check chat for 1 second, and then we'll be back. By the way, we have a new background, as you can see behind me. We've got bricks. I've moved into the cellar of my great-grandmother because I can't afford a house anymore because Bitcoin is at $68,000. I hope you are all incredibly well. I'm just keeping an eye on chat. Right then, let's move on. XRP, Sol, ADA, Doge, alt season delayed to 2027 as dominance cycle requires 2 to 3 years, says analyst by Olivia Brooke. Now again, people will start rewriting the narrative when their narrative doesn't play out. And there are still people telling you that we're in a bull market. We covered this on Friday. We're not going over it again. We're not in a bull market. We've come down 50%. We're in a bear market. Read between the lines of what we are seeing here. Dominant cycle requires 2 to 3 years, says analyst. In 2 to 3 years' time, we will be running back up towards the 2029 all-time high for Bitcoin. That's where we're heading. And if anything, probably the next 12 months is a good time to start dollar cost averaging in, okay? We've seen Ethereum come down from nearly $5,000. We're sitting at $2,000. We may very well go to $1,200. But between $2,000 and $1,200 is probably a good price to accumulate Ethereum at. Solana, I want to see Solana at $50. It might not go there because that's a 30% correction to the downside. It may very well go there. But either way, I will be accumulating Solana between probably 85 where we are now and maybe 50, even 45, around that price. I'm not accumulating XRP because it's, I think, 3.5-4 times higher than when I bought it originally. I don't need to do that. Cardano's the same. Cardano is higher than what I bought it at. I'm probably not going to dollar cost average into Cardano, and I'm probably just going to keep buying Bitcoin. Now, Matthew Hyland, who we've not covered for ages. In fact, I don't think I've seen any of his tweets in a very long time. He's talking about the fact that the The alt season would likely fall into 2027 or 2028. That timeline does not negate opportunity. He maintains that investors are currently in a maximum opportunity zone for long-term crypto accumulation. I think I've just said this. Altcoin dominance is breaking out and momentum is shifting for the first time in pretty much, 6 years, 5.5 years. Asymmetric upside unless one assumes Bitcoin collapses entirely. In the analyst's view, current prices will appear deeply discounted over a multi-year horizon. Not all market watchers agree. Mark Chadwick argues that altcoins are forming what he describes as a multi-year cup structure, with support repeatedly respected and a handle developing near resistance. Supporting indicators, we don't need to talk about this, but actually we can cover this bit off. What I would say is you've probably got a minimum of a year to start accumulating the alts that you want to get into. And you have to pick them wisely. Not every alt is going to have the same run next cycle. The majority of alts that are in the top 10, I mean, how much longer are we going to see Doge? It's a pointless, useless waste of people's assets. You've got coins on this screen now which are not going to be here in the next bull run, or maybe they're not even in the top 30 in the next bull run. And you've got coins in here which are going to be considerably higher in the next bull run. And the second you start dropping below, I would say, Solana, you've got question marks against pretty much everything below Solana. You've got question marks probably about Tron. You certainly have question marks about Dogecoin. Cardano, I think, is probably going to survive because they are just never going to give up. Bitcoin Cash, I do not have any idea why that is there. Hype is 12 months in to its project. Tokenomics look really, really good. Could a change in the world structure, the governments coming together, forcing entities out of DEXs, could that have an effect? Maybe, but very unlikely. So that could certainly hang around. Monero, as far as I'm concerned, will be dead. Chainlink is going to be probably one of the ones that's going to rip to the upside. Athena is a stable coin. Canton, maybe. Another stable coin. Stellar, is it on borrowed time? More stable coins. HBAR, Litecoin is at 23rd. The majority of these coins are finished. But there will be new coins that come on board. And there are coins which will come on board which we don't know about. If we go back a year, we didn't have Hyperliquid. It's now 13th in the world. We probably will see another Hyperliquid. Maybe we'll see another 5 Hyperliquids over the next 12 months come along. Different projects in different fields, all based solely around the idea of making a profit. And maybe we're going to see a grown-up version of the top 30, 40, 50 cryptocurrency assets. If you stripped away, or if you went to Grok and say, show me the top 50 tokens based on revenue generation, this would look entirely different. Absolutely entirely different. And I think that's what we have to really look at. You have to look at projects that make money. And we have been saying this since the start, I know. But we're doubling down on saying it since the start. Because when I came to crypto, the one thing that I just couldn't get my head around is why people were buying into projects that didn't make any money, which was meme coins. And I just couldn't get my head around it. And yes, we've seen the likes of Pudgy Penguins. They've got their IP out there. Yes, we've got the likes of Mew that have got a design studio. They're going to have their own animated TV series. They've got their own IP in their mystery boxes. We know about those projects, but that's a few. That's a handful. Treasury companies, borrowed time maybe. When do people want to start seeing money come back? Again, I think we're going through a transition from everything to everybody to specifics that make money. So we're looking at the bottom line now. and that's a good thing. Now, tough one. Cardano Foundation CEO breaks down road to European tokenization. Grigard speaks on the tough journey towards European asset tokenization following the Archax integration. My question about this is, why does anybody want to go near Europe? That would be my first question. If I had a choice of America, North America, South America, Asia and Europe, Europe would be last on my list. It is overly regulated, overly controlled, overly dominated by a few people, and they are not hell-bent on helping people, entrepreneurs, start businesses. If entrepreneurs don't start businesses, people don't have jobs. Simple fact. What is it, 60, 70% of employment is through small companies? You don't help small companies, you're finished. So why would you want to go down the European tokenization route? I would be looking at Asia. All of the Asian countries, most of the Asian countries, sorry, are open to crypto adoption. Africa is massively untapped. Massively untapped. Africa. There we go, we're back. Yeah, I don't even know if Europe would be in my top 7. I'd probably go to Australia before I would go to Europe. Now, he's confirmed the successful integration of Cardano into the Archax ecosystem, a digital exchange regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority and operating within the legal framework of the European Union. The event marks a breakthrough in the field of real-world asset tokenization and strengthens the institutional presence of the Cardano project. I suppose the way you could win in Europe is by taking control away from the Europeans. That would be a way to win. And tokenization could be one way to do that. But they're going to wrap things up. You can go today and you can buy Tesla stock on Solana. In fact, you can buy Tesla stock on Binance. How many European stocks can you buy on Solana? How many European stocks can you buy on Binance? So maybe the control will eventually be market driven to the point where they lose control a little bit to allow the market to grow. And then maybe that's an avenue. But for me right now, I wouldn't go anywhere near Europe. And I would make a point of saying I'm going nowhere near Europe. For the ecosystem, this can be described as a strategic step towards attracting institutional liquidity. Direct access to a platform regulated in the UK and Europe allows large market participants to securely tokenize traditional financial instruments, from real estate to securities, using the Cardano blockchain. That is probably the most bullish thing we've covered on Solana in the last several weeks, I would say. It's far bigger than some spas in Switzerland that they were doing the other week. I still think Cardano has a place in the ecosystem because it's trusted, and it's trusted by institutions, and it's not Solana, which of course would be the first port of call. So for me, Cardano, massively bullish on the ecosystem. This kind of stuff doesn't work, however, without a solid DeFi platform. So whether it be Binance as a centralized exchange, whether it be something like Camino Finance or Jupiter as a decentralized platform, Cardano needs its own DeFi Camino Finance, a DeFi Aave. In fact, bringing Aave to Cardano would be, coupled with this, a massive move. We've got the stablecoin. We talked about that probably 3 streams ago. We're going to see the first $1 billion worth of USD on Cardano probably within the next 6 months. That's liquidity. We see tokenized assets on Cardano. That's utility. We see Camino Finance or Aave or someone like that on Cardano. That's utility. That's how they need to play this. And if they get the Bitcoin thing right, which is like, I think that's a little bit like my whale. That's the one thing I've got my hat held on. I think they could be absolutely massive as a blockchain. And again, I just think they've got everything right apart from the marketing. I think the marketing is where they're let down. They're not sexy. they don't have anything about them that's sexy. Now then, Trump-linked crypto project World Liberty Financial faces liquidity concerns as token price falls. We have got to the end of the stream, and I've still got 3 articles left to go. So we're going to do this one, and I'm not going to keep you any longer after this one because I don't want to drag the stream out and make everybody fall asleep. Investors in World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency project connected to the family of Donald Trump, are reportedly facing growing uncertainty as the project token declines in value while liquidity remains limited. The token price hasn't really changed. Okay, I don't know where they've got that idea from. We were covering World Liberty Financial 6 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. The token price was 10 cents, just below 10 cents. It's sitting at the same price now. So I don't know where this is coming from. It sounds like a hit piece, maybe. According to reports from Bloomberg, again, it's a hit piece if it's come from Bloomberg, retail investors who purchase the token are finding it difficult to exit their positions due to restricted trading options and thin liquidity. What is this talking about? You can trade it on Binance. This is absolute garbage. This is crap. I don't know who wrote that. That's absolute nonsense. You can trade WLFI on Binance. You can trade it on all the major exchanges. I know there is a group of people out there that are trying to FUD WLFI. Fine. That's their prerogative. But it's still one of my picks. I still think it's going to do maybe a 10x in the next few years, simply because you've got a president of America who's going to push a stable coin to a $10-20 billion market cap, which will generate $500 million to $1 billion a year, which will then be used to buy the token. And that's the simple fact of it. It's a revenue generating business, and that is all I care about. If this was run by Biden, I would say exactly the same thing, apart from I don't think he would ever even consider running something like this. But if he ever did, I'd be saying the same thing. It's all based on numbers. You have a stable coin, you promote the stable coin, you build a revenue, and you use it to buy back the tokens. It's the same thing that Maple Finance do with Syrup. Syrup makes let's say $2 million a month. They spend $500,000 of that buying back their token. It's the same thing. Hype do the same thing. BNB does the same thing. The buyback and burn, or the buyback to the treasury, it does work if you generate revenue. That's the key. It makes money. Anyway, I should probably bring the stream to a close because we did completely overrun today. Bitcoin dollar cost averaging in. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you especially to the likes of Danny, to the likes of Mags, to the likes of KB. Bullish Bull came into the chat a little bit later on. Over on Binance, Flora, Tamira, Aria, Cageway, Unknown BNB, thank you all for coming to the stream. I am back tomorrow. Now, one other very quick thing. The Oracle has hurt his back, and he wanted to stream today, and I've stopped him. The Oracle is not streaming today, much as he wanted to stream in 2 hours' time. I think he needs a break. I think he needs to give his back another day's rest, and then he will be back. So no second stream today. Maybe he'll do it tomorrow. But the other thing to bear in mind is that we have, as well as ordering the new microphones, we've ordered new lighting. So the lighting that you see now is really crap. It's not diffused. It's rubbish. It makes all my head shiny. It's crap. We've ordered some new lights, which are going to be delivered probably next week as well. So we're going to have new lighting, new microphones next week. We'll be completely different people. See you all tomorrow when Bitcoin is at $72,000. Take care. Bye-bye.